like 4 people or 5 at a table. We'll go back on.
That's good.
Hey, you're up.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. You know, I might know some of y'all out there, but all these masks, what can I say? Anyway, we'd like to welcome y'all. We'd like to call to order a planning commission meeting. And Mr. Slay, if you don't mind doing invocation, I appreciate it.
Let's pray together. Lord God, thank you for the day you've given us, the opportunity of service that you've provided to us, Lord. You've given each of us roles and responsibilities to undertake. Father, we want to do that well. We want to do that in a way that pleases you. Father, we need you to help us to do it. We need your wisdom, your discernment, Father, your guidance, and certainly, Father, your blessing upon us. Lord, thank you for the protection that you're providing to us and how you are walking us through a season, Lord, that is very unusual. Lord, we acknowledge that we're relying completely and totally upon you, your power, your presence with us. Father, I thank you that you say that you will never leave us nor forsake us, and it's in times like these that we really feel that promise at the deepest level, and we thank you for it. Lord, I pray on behalf of our first responders who are all across this county doing the things that you have called them to do. Please protect them, give them safety, Lord, and bring them home to their families. In Christ's name.
Amen. All right. Renee Lawrence here. Let's see. Need approval of consideration approval of April 30th minutes.
I make a motion.
Motion by Steve, second by Brad. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Old business. Anything?
There is no old business.
Okay. New consideration.
All right, the first item under new considerations is a rezoning on Heslop Street. The county is initiating this rezoning. Most of Heslop Street is inside the town limits of Pelahatchie. You can see here on the map. These properties, the 4 parcels, are on the east and the west side of Heslop. That shows the 4 that are being considered for rezoning. We're seeking a change from I-1, they're zoned industrial currently, to A-1. And this came to light because there's a woman who's trying to sell her home, and she didn't realize that it was zoned I-1. So her buyer, she has a buyer, but they can't get financing due to the I-1 zoning. That's an aerial view of those properties. So these properties join the city limits or the town limits of Pelahatchie on the west and the north side. We've checked Pelahatchie's zoning map, and the adjoining properties are zoned I-1, R1, and A-1. So the future land use map for Pelahatchie, this parcel is inside the city limits. It's currently zoned I-1, but their future land use shows that as parks and recreation, and they've already placed a ball field on that property. A lot of this property is in the flood zone, so it would be better suited for agricultural use, we believe. And also, the street Heslop, that's a densely populated, older neighborhood. The streets are very narrow. It wouldn't be conducive to industrial traffic coming through there. And Craig and I checked or met with Rankin first just to see if they were aware of any issues or any reasons why we might not change the zoning, and they were okay with it. This is a view of one of the properties down there. You know, when it comes through the town of Pelahatchie, it's paved, but when you get down to this end, it just turns to gravel. Wrong way. This is another one of the properties that would be changed to A1. And then there are just 2 vacant properties down there. This is a view going down the road, and this is coming back into Pelahatchie here on Heslop.
How many landowners are involved?
Well, it would be 3 landowners because there's 4 parcels, but one lady owns 2 of these.
And they all are in favor of going to...
I haven't heard from any of them. The lady who's trying to sell her property had talked to the other woman with a home down here. and she said she was fine with it. They got a notice that we were, considering it for rezoning. Nobody's been opposed yet. Sign's been posted, so they should be aware.
I think I remember maybe you telling me this has been zoned this way for a while, and there hadn't been any industrial activity around this area.
No, sir. This lady has lived down there for 30 years, and she said they use it for pasture land,
Yep.
primarily because it is flood zone. And anyway,
So it'd be
No,
better to
it's
go
been-
this way than like RE1A?
well, I think so, because we were going to try to match what Pelahatchie had, which is A1, and then as it comes into the county on the east side, it borders agricultural. So it matches the use of the land for many years, and it would still be matching. Now, the county's zoning on the east side is A2, but we were just asking for A1 since it is bordering the town of Pelahatchie
Right.
town limits.
Just as a matter of historical record and how we got to this point with industrial. As you know, in and attenuated this area is a very large tract of property that has been identified and segregated to some degree by the Mississippi Development Authority as a potential mega site. And this demonstrates that in anticipation of that, the original zoning in anticipation that this could end up being a large industrial user was that there would be parcels that are not currently being used or as a part of a mega site, as a part of industrial, but that would probably end up being border parcels that provide some amount of buffer. The zoning in anticipation of that was set as I, okay? So it wasn't a mistake, it's not an issue of somebody making an error in any way. It was anticipatory of something that just simply hasn't materialized. And so, in light of the fact that this lady would be suffering hardship, not able to dispose of her property, then it makes sense for us under these circumstances to rezone these specific parcels. The reason we met with Rankin first was to make sure that we weren't going to step on our lip here, trying to overthink this. And so we wanted to clarify with them that this request had been made, and we felt like it needed to be accommodated. What, if any, impact could this have in the future? And it was determined that because these properties immediately border the town's park, that it would not make sense for these parcels to ever be considered for any purpose related to a large industrial user anyway. They would just simply be discarded from that process. They would not be considered.
Yeah, because they're too small for.
And they don't provide enough distance between an aggressive use of the property where you would have children and other things that are simply not going to be favorable to an industrial user.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So that we don't anticipate any issues with this small change.
And there are parcels to the south that will remain industrial, so, in this section here, so there is still some I zoning there.
Most of the eye is south of the interstate, and that's where the site's going to be. A lot of what we're talking about here in anticipation was to provide rail service to the industrial site, and so we don't think that that's going to be impacted.
From the south of that property toward, is that railroad tracks or is that I-20?
That's
That's I-20.
Okay, from the south of that red line to I-20, is that really low in there? Is that a
It's
small?
floodway, so
Yeah.
they can't develop that to
Yeah,
start with.
that's what I was thinking.
But
How many
these-
acres are in that 2 blocks that's right there?
These two?
No,
No,
square.
Square ribbon.
This lady owns 60-something acres, the one with the house. I don't remember all total, probably about close to maybe
Like
250.
Huh?
100 maybe? That looks like a 160
40.
Sure.
and an 80.
Well, maybe it was.
Big
Well,
chunk then.
my thinking is, if she's selling, by us moving the zoning to A1, they're gonna have to come back to us again if whoever buys it says, I wanna sell off 40 acres, won't they?
No, sir.
Under A1, they wouldn't have to if they were.
Well, I mean, if they sold it as a 40-acre piece, they wouldn't have to. You're
Okay.
talking about the subregs? The subregs would kick in if they wanted to try to develop it. You know, and in the future years, if they wanted to, if Pelahatchie provided sewer at some point,
Yeah.
could be able to come in and rezone to something else, because there had been a change, you know, that sewer would then be available. But we just have to cross that bridge.
Okay.
when we
And
get
just
to it.
wouldn't disallow that 5 years from now or whatever, whoever bought it said, I just can't take care of this amount of land and I want
Try to
to sell
split it up
4
and divide it.
10-acre plots. We just have to revisit it.
We would, it would have to be rezoned if they wanted to develop it. I mean, if you prefer to change it to RE1, you know.
Well, I mean,
We were
it's
just
kind of
trying
between a
to,
rock and a hard spot here.
I didn't realize that many
to
acres.
match Pelahatchie's.
I guess let's match Pelahatchie's and then if we need something later, we'll cross that road, I guess.
All right, so we just need to set that public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we set it.
Second.
All right, motion sets the public hearing by Steve, second by Daniel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, next one.
The next one is a conditional use permit for Ken and Susan Barrington at 1377 Highway 471. This property is located on the west side of 471. The Barringtons are seeking the conditional use permit to construct a barn-dominium style home on this property. They own 10.05 acres. It's zoned RE1. That's an aerial view of the property. This is their site plan. The home will be situated around 775 feet off of Highway 471. It won't be visible from 471 at all. And these are just a style of something they will be looking at. It will have a metal and stone brick exterior. It won't be exactly like this. It was just an example of something of how it might look. This is the entrance coming in off of 471. And this is a neighboring property here. That's back to 471, and that's across the 471 on the Coon Hunters Road side. So,
I make a
and-
motion, we set it.
Second.
Motion sets the public hearing by Steve, second by Daniel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right.
All right, site plan, architect review.
All right, this is for Carmen Frank at 343 Dixie Road. This property is located on the west side of Dixie Road. It's a 1.10 acre parcel, zone C3. Mr. Frank is proposing placement of a 14 by 20 portable building to be used for a restaurant. He wants to sell hot dogs and ribs at the restaurant. Customers will order through a walk-up window. They'll get their food and they'll leave. This is his site plan. And the restaurant, the little portable building will be placed here. This is a future pavilion that he may install later with a few tables and seating. He's proposing limestone parking area to accommodate 4 to 6 cars, and he will install a hard surface ADA parking space and a ramp. Tim didn't have any comments on the drainage. This is a picture of that portable building. And then this is the view of that property. And this property, these are surrounding properties, but this is located next door to an existing car wash. Mr. Frank is here. This is the car wash. Mr. Frank is here today if y'all have any questions for him.
I don't really, they've talked to me several times about it and, you know, obviously gone through the process with you and all. You had everything, you got everything, you're covered like you want to be and everything. Well, with that being said, I mean, I don't have a problem. I make a motion. I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved. This site plan by myself, second by Ms. Gaines. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I didn't realize you were back there again, that mask.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. We're going to move through the nuisance property hearings today. The first item under Section 6A is the Trustmark National Bank nuisance property at 304 Helmsley Drive. It's a District 2 parcel. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask Renee to demonstrate with the photos. If anyone is here on behalf of Trustmark National Bank, they should be prepared to address the board at the appropriate time.
All right. These pictures were taken on March the 13th. We've received multiple complaints here from that neighborhood about the rubbish and debris.
Where?
Okay, so
Well,
Waste
they've been-
Management
they've been-
didn't pick the garbage up because all their garbage cans are empty and upside down.
Have they been just dumping there?
Yeah.
No.
This
Tires.
house went into foreclosure. But these are the new pictures, and I'm happy to say that they have started
Wow.
trying to clean up,
That was a big
making a
difference.
lot
That
of good
big
bit of
jump.
progress. They still got some work
So,
to do.
does someone live there?
Trustmark doing this?
Or
No,
trust-
I can answer all those questions you
Sure, go
guys.
ahead. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
All right, what we got here is, I'm James Renfro. I was actually the one that foreclosed on it last year. We actually had a judgment of possession. The owner of this property actually died. So they actually have some form of a relative there by the name of Clinton Moore that's actually residing there. I actually got a judgment of possession giving Trustmark the authority to go and possess the property back in January or so. Well, they didn't leave. They kept staying there. And the problem is that we have to have a writ of possession thereafter to actually go get the constable, or sheriff, or whoever to get them out of the house. Well, guess when that happened? March 27th. Now, March 27th, as you know, is when the CARES Act went into effect for COVID. It actually prohibited us from doing any evictions for a period of 120 days. Likewise, the executive order from the governor came into place right after that barred all evictions till June 1st. Which obviously is next week, but to give you an idea, I don't know about how Rankin County is setting their wrongful detainers or not yet, but I do know that I tried to set one in Madison last week, and they're not even still setting them yet. They won't let me set them yet. So, as far as Trustmark position is, and we have to go by what the meter says when our inspector comes out. If the inspector comes out and shows no utility services, we'll send somebody out there, ASAP to clean it up. We want it cleaned up. And this is actually, we are actually a servicer under this for HUD, Housing Urban Development. So we have to have actual clear eviction occupancy out before we can take possession. So it's our position, we have no problem cleaning it up. We'll be happy to, but we can't do it until someone's out. And right now, as we checked 2 to 3 weeks ago, it was still being occupied. And it actually looks from those pictures that whoever's there is cleaning it up. Because we're not actually, we can't go there, so somebody's cleaning it up.
I wouldn't mess with them right now. I'd give them a couple more weeks.
What's your take? I know we've heard from a lot of different people on that.
The occupants are actually in justice court today, I think, reporting back. But these are the pictures from today. They still have a little bit of stuff that hopefully the truck will pick up.
Okay, so it looks like some of what you're seeing here, Daniel, has actually been moved out to the street for waste management to deal with. My hope would be that waste management accommodates us. I can't, either they are intending for waste management to clean this all out, or they are planning to move, because I see about 3 or 4 suitcases out there for retrieval as well, so.
Likewise, that's fine with us. We actually hope they do.
So they're really not supposed to be in there,
No, sir, they're not.
but they are cleaning it up.
It appears so.
That's odd.
So,
Well, they're at
Guess they're
justice
planning on
court.
staying.
They plan on staying.
Sounds like it.
Renee,
think there's some criminal charges allocated against them.
They're at
they're
justice
for
court.
this,
Yes, yes, sir.
we don't want to get in the way of that. How
Well,
can
we're
we
not.
keep, okay,
It's ongoing.
all right.
So Daniel, to answer your question, I understand Trustmark's position, and this virus situation has got everybody 9 ways to Sunday, and nobody really understands or appreciates exactly what the rules are. I don't know if you guys are as frustrated as I am, but rules change every day, and different court systems seem to be operating under different rules. I was told to bring a mask to court yesterday. And when I got to court, I was told, you don't need a mask. So I'm not really sure what the dynamics are. So I appreciate the position that Trustmark is in as the owner of the property now, that they want to be careful not to alleviate one issue and create yet another. My strong suggestion would be that we're not likely to get a change in the way that the courts are operating with respect to judgments of possession or issuance of a writ of possession. I don't anticipate that that's going to speed up mysteriously. I expect the courts to be reticent to throw people out of their house in these circumstances. It's hard to argue with why they would take that position. They've got the governor with an executive order that protects them. So we're in a bind here to know how to move forward. So as long as there is progress being made cleaning this up, and we're satisfied that it's being cleaned up, and the pictures that I'm seeing show additional progress even today.
But I think the most important thing also is that long as Trustmark's paying attention to it very closely, our people are paying close attention to it, and we just maximize pressure on wherever we can legally, we do that. That's my main thing.
As much as I would like to provide additional pressure in this circumstance to Trustmark, I don't believe that it's in our best interest to pursue that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. I appreciate the fact that they actually had someone come and talk to us about that. That, quite honestly, that's unusual. Most of the time, lenders basically show us the back of their hand and say, do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, we definitely
So
appreciate it. And
I
you
definitely
being here this morning makes a big difference, knowing that you're
Absolutely.
paying attention to it. So thank you for that.
At least they are cleaning up.
Yep.
I'm shocked.
To give you guys an idea, if for some reason Trustmark let the property go into complete waste, they're a servicer alone, which most people don't realize. Servicers mean that they don't actually own the paper. They don't have papers owned by Housing and Urban Development. So if they let this go into disrepair, this was a $120,000 foreclosure. Trustmark has to eat the $120,000. So it's in their financial interest to make sure that it's done.
Okay.
So with that, Daniel, what I would suggest that we do is we table this again for 30 days and we come back and revisit the issue. It's the only thing I know to do because the guidance on what we're doing under this virus stuff is changing. I think a 30-day window here to see what happens with respect to eviction.
Do you need me to make a motion on that?
If you will, Daniel, just for the record, to table this for 30 days and revisit.
Okay, that's my motion.
Yeah, I'd like for Mr. Gendron to understand that, that we're still open in a public hearing. It hadn't been closed yet, and so the notice that we are providing to Trustmark as servicer is that this issue will be revisited in a 30-day period. I don't know what that date will be. Do we have the work session date for June? Whatever last Thursday in June is, I think. Well, I won't be the person to ask. I would suggest stay in touch with Ms. Renee's office, but I would like to see us revisit this at the work session in June, whatever that date is. July 2nd. That's, huh?
July 2nd.
July 2nd is the work session. Okay, that's a weird one. All right, so the actual last Thursday before the first Monday is a July date. So we will get this, we'll revisit this on July 2.
Yeah.
Actual notice of that hearing has been provided to Trustmark Service by virtue of what we just said.
Okay.
All right? July 2, 9 a.m., right here.
So that'll be my motion.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion to table this by Mr. Cross, second by Ms. Calhoun. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for your efforts too.
Okay. Gentlemen, item B, we'll close that public hearing if I didn't close it. So, Brad, that's going to be your job, is to remind me to close these public hearings, okay? Steve Crawford and Tim Frank, nuisance property, 116 Bell Grove, this is District 2 property. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask Renee to demonstrate. If anyone is here on behalf of Mr. Crawford or Mr. Frank, now's the time to come forward.
All right, so we received complaints on this starting in February of this year. Neighbors were complaining about rubbish and debris, the fence falling down. It's a vacant structure. And these are the new pictures that were taken on the 26th.
All right, tell me about it. You're on the main drag right there coming in.
Yes, sir. On the property for a while, we were in the middle, as you saw the sheetrock and stuff, rehabbing it, and actually put it up for sale, and someone's actually bought it since then. Hopefully, we're gonna close on it in about either next week or the week after. The dirt we were using to fill in, we'd done a lot of foundation work in the house, and so we had to backfill the dirt back into the house. There's a reason the dirt was sitting there. Yeah. You know, I do know that fence, it was broke, but on the other side, it was just open. Yeah. I keep the house up, I keep the yard cut every week.
Right. Have you spoken to the new person buying the home in regards to the situation you're in right now as far as being
No.
here on a nuisance property?
No, because I didn't know, I've never had a nuisance property, so this is my first, yes.
Okay. When is your closure date on that?
I talked to him last night, on or before the 10th,
June?
June, yes.
Okay. So my thoughts were, Mr. Slade, just do the same thing, table it for 30 days and just see where we're at that point, and then give the new homeowner time to make the adjustment on that point?
So,
Or what do you suggest?
yeah, just to clarify a couple of things, if I may. To clarify a couple of things, until there's a closing, the ownership is right here.
Correct.
None of us here today addressing the issue, the condition of the property, are parties to or obligated or bound in any way by a pending transaction
Right.
changing ownership. So what we can address today, Daniel, is what the current owner needs to do to deal with, to rehab this property to a condition that's acceptable to us. And what we find, as of today, it's still not in the condition that we would want it to be in, for certainly for the people around this property, the neighbors who are impacted by the condition of the property. So I appreciate the fact that we may have a change of ownership here, and it may be beneficial to all the parties involved for the new owner to address the condition of the property. That's fine,
Sure.
but I think we're far short of knowing enough details at this point. My suggestion would be that we go on and declare it a nuisance, Daniel, and that we allow Renee to monitor the condition of the closing, the situation with the closing, information that comes along with the new owner that we can make contact with and address to them the situation, so that we just hold that declaration until such time as it becomes apparent that it's not going to be dealt with, and then Renee doesn't have to come back and revisit the issue with a new owner. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, so you understand what I'm talking about here. Basically, we're going to go ahead and declare it a nuisance today, and then give you basically 30 days to fix this joker. And if it's not back into a position to where the new owner has got it taken care of and working on it, the responsibility is going to fall on you to have it back in place to be
Okay.
suitable for the neighborhood.
Let me ask you this.
Yep.
What would it take for that not to happen to the house today or tomorrow?
What I don't want to have happen is I don't want to walk back in here and have to have another hearing on the 2nd of July
Right.
to declare it a nuisance and then run it up to justice court for fines. Basically, anything happens today, if we declare you a nuisance and we give you 30 days to fix it, nothing happens. It just sits here. But in 30 days, if it's not fixed, it goes straight to justice court, and you'll be dealing with the judges on that inside of
I
it.
think what he's asking is if he goes out there and fixes it in the next
Today
week,
or tomorrow.
Well, today or tomorrow.
can he
I mean,
get
if
this?
that's all it is.
Can he get this dismissed? And my answer is he need to have her come out and look at it.
Yeah,
Sure.
if their offices
Bam.
sign off on
If
it,
it's
it
to
never
her
happened.
liking, and let me guess, remove the dirt and maybe get rid of the fence doors?
Yeah, and just be sure it's tidy from the outside.
Sir?
Tidy from the outside.
Right. Is that to your liking?
We'll have to see what you do. The house is open now. Are you going to secure it where it's?
Sure.
Yeah, we
Still gonna
and-
declare it a
and-
nuisance, though.
understand why we need the house secured. We don't need kids in the summertime running through the house and
Well, here's the
or what.
problem.
Yeah,
Every time we fix the house, somebody busts the doors in.
gotcha.
How can you, I mean, literally, it's been demolished.
Gotcha.
To be honest, the neighborhood, I don't know what the deal is. Literally, every
Well,
time they rehab the house, they go in and bust holes.
Right. So the main thing I need to, we're gonna take your property specifically, And let's be sure we get that area cleaned up, and we'll worry about the rest of it as we worry about it. But that's the thing. Nothing's going to happen to you right now for 30 days. You've got time to get that thing fixed and up to running. But if it's not taken care of in 30 days, then it'll go to justice court. So all you've got to do is either
Clean it up.
sell it, get it into the new possession of the new owner, explain to them what they've got to do, get the yard cleaned up, the dirt, stuff like that, get the house secured, buttoned up, take care of the fence, where visually outside it looks good. Whatever happens inside it is your business, right? But and then after 30 days, if it's not true, then it's going to go straight to justice court at that point.
Let me ask you this.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I got one.
If he sells this property in the condition it's in right now, we don't have a nuisance complaint against the new people.
It starts over.
And they have the house, so we'd have to start it over.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was
We
gonna
need,
say.
we need him to clean it up before he sells
If
it.
we cannot make it into where we gotta drag this on, I'll get some guys over there.
That would be
I'll be over there
best for everybody.
by tomorrow, it'll be cleaned up.
That's what we need.
My suggestion would be that needs to happen regardless.
Yeah,
That should have already happened.
Yeah.
It needs to happen regardless. So my suggestion would be this, and I think, are you Mr. Crawford or Mr. Frank?
Mr. Frank.
Okay. I think what Mr. Frank is missing here is that if we dismiss this without taking any action, we get to start over with our notice.
That's right.
And we may not have an owner identified when we're ready to start it again. And then we got to figure out who the new owner is. We have an owner here today. And so my strong suggestion is we declare this a nuisance. We delay the referral of that declaration to the justice court for a period of 30 days.
Yeah.
That allows Mr. Frank to
The
dismiss
reason
this.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get around or get away with anything.
Right.
Look, I'll take care of it today.
Okay.
By tomorrow, like I said, I don't know about the weather.
I understand.
What if the new owner goes in and starts rehabbing the house?
Yeah.
That'd
be his
That's a
problem.
new
You
owner.
call
It's not up
her,
to you.
when you get finished with it, and you think it, call her and let them inspect it, and then she'll say yes.
Yea or nay?
Yeah, that's right.
But it-
And then when you
do
sell
be-
it,
yeah.
if the new owner goes in
Be
there,
responsible
they
for
may
it.
have another
Well,
problem,
Yeah,
but
that's what I was.
But that's
I guess-
not on you.
No, it's
Yeah.
not.
So, okay.
It'll
Well,
be a new
When you
nuisance.
sell it,
because-
it's out of your hands.
Yeah, once I sell it, I can't legally go back to the property.
Right.
Ba- Basically, you've got 30 days to work it out with her.
Oh.
If you can't get it worked out with her in 30 days, it goes to justice court. That's
Well,
basically what this is
But if I
saying.
have it taken care of by tomorrow, give her a phone call, she can go
If he
right
sells
by
it,
there, and everything's
then
good.
it won't be on him.
Yeah.
So he needs to
Yeah.
do it within 10
she
days.
may not be able to get there tomorrow, but
You want to get this off your name.
Yeah, it'll be done.
Get with her.
The owner's
Well,
buying it.
actually,
Same
Start all over
by
again.
Saturday, how about that?
Hey,
Yeah.
sometime next week, contact this office. They'll come out and take a look at it. So that's my motion, Mr. Slay. I'm going to
We're
declare
going
it
to
a
close
nuisance.
that public hearing and
Hold pin it
Daniel's
for
going to
30
take
days
action.
till you get it worked out with her. If it's not worked out with her in 30 days, then it goes to justice court at that point.
Well, let me
So
ask you, what if it's sold though?
it don't matter.
it
don't
changes.
matter.
It changes.
This'll be a-
It's off you.
We gotta redo it anyhow
I
for
was gonna say,
sales.
so he.
So
he
You don't have to worry about it at
needs
that
to
point.
All right, I second
Now, I
that
don't
motion.
have to come back up here.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
All right, motion by
Okay,
Mr.
Zach.
Cross to, declare it nuisance, and, second by Mr. Gaines.
Table it for 30 days.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah,
Yep.
appreciate it. I forgot I have a upper and lower DI tomorrow, so.
Oh, you're lucky, huh?
Lucky you, yeah, really.
Good luck.
All right, motion, I got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
That matter is closed. I believe I did close it, but we're making
Yeah.
sure. Item C under my section of the nuisance property hearings is the Susanna G. Lewis nuisance property. This is at 1102 Muse Road. That's a District 1 property. We'll open that public hearing. Renee will demonstrate with the photos. If anyone is here on behalf of Susanna G. Lewis, now's the time to come forward.
All right, so we've received a couple of complaints on this property. These pictures were taken January 10th of 2020. It's vacant. These are the new pictures. There hasn't been any change except for the grass is growing
Getting
now,
tall.
getting tall. We haven't had any luck in, you know,
Nobody's here representing?
Anyone here on behalf of Ms. Lewis? Anyone?
Okay.
Jared, I don't see anyone here representing the property owner.
we'll close that public hearing. At this time, it'd be appropriate to take action.
I, declare a nuisance. Make a
Second.
motion to declare a nuisance.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay. We'll move to item D, which is the Thomas Clark nuisance property. This is at 302 Keith Avenue. This is District 3 property. That public hearing is open. I'll ask Renee to demonstrate with the photos. If anyone is here on behalf of Thomas Clark, they should make their way to the...
All right, so we've received some complaints on this property too. This is a property that we've had multiple complaints on in the past as well. Our first notice was sent March 12th. These are pictures of what the property looked like. This is a corner lot. These are the new pictures.
Tell me a little bit about it, Mr. Clark.
Well, I work for a guy that's got a bunch of rental property. I'm the world's worst about bringing stuff home and setting it out of my truck.
You know there was dumpsters there at Robin Hood for
I
over a
did,
month.
and the whole time I was actually loading stuff on a trailer that's not in these pictures and hauling it to the dump and paying for it to be dumped. I wasn't even using the dumpsters. It was my fault. You know, those were up there for people that, you know, didn't do what I did.
Okay.
Actually, she took pictures today. The fences have all been put back up. They're fixed. That boat's sitting there with the kayaks. We just used it this weekend. I've got to unload it and get it put up. I mean, it looks a lot different right now. I have pictures on my phone.
I
this
rode
morning.
by it this morning. That was,
Oh, that was
movie
you
phone.
in the silver truck. Okay. I am working on it. That tractor's sitting in the front yard in that picture. I just bought it so I can get the place cleaned up. I bought the tractor 2 weeks ago.
Well, no, I made a commitment to a lot of folks out there that I was going to do what's right for Robin Hood, and there's a lot of good people in there that want to see this cleaned up.
I'm working on it.
And
I'm wide open. Like I said, you know, from those pictures to what you've seen this morning, I've got the front done. I've got the lot around the corner mostly cleaned up. I'm kind of doing it in sections as it gets back away from the road is what I'm trying to do. So everything's going to be up and out of there very soon. If y'all can give me just a little
How
bit
much
longer.
land is in this lot?
I have 9 lots there. It's about 2.5, 3 acres.
I mean, I want to see it cleaned up. We'll table it for 30 days.
I make a
Good.
motion we declare it,
We're going to declare
declare
it
it
nuisance
nuisance and table it. We'll
for
just
30
like-
days,
Yep.
and then we'll revisit it.
I got you.
And we're going to give you 30 days on it.
It'll be done.
And, I mean, I come through Robin Hood all the time. I get a lot of calls from Robin Hood, and I mean, I'm doing what I can to clean it up. And
Right.
I mean, I need your help on this now.
I'm on.
I mean, we need to get it cleaned up.
I'm on.
All right.
I'll take care of it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just to clarify for the record, if it's all right with you guys, I don't want there to be any confusion at all about this. What is pending, I think what Brad is intending to do here is to make a motion to declare this a public nuisance, right? And that the instruction to our community development folks will be to monitor the condition of the property for a period of 30 days and to make their own opinion, obviously in consultation with Brad, but to make a determination at the end of that 30-day period as to whether or not the property has been adequately cleaned up. And if it has not, there is no further action that this board needs to take. That's why I want to make it clear to Mr. Clark so that he understands.
If it's not, it's going to go straight to
It's going
justice
straight to
court.
justice court. So this is a good opportunity for us to clarify what happens. Sometimes the board makes a decision, we're not going to declare it a nuisance at this point, we're going to monitor it, right? And so that's not what's happening here. The board is going to move forward, I assume, to move that this will be declared a nuisance. I just wanted to be clear on the record what's happening, okay? So if there's no further questions of Mr. Clark and everybody's understanding where we are, we'll close that public hearing. It'd be appropriate to take action.
I'll make a motion to declare it a nuisance, and we'll revisit in 30 days.
All
Second.
right. Motion by Brad, second by Steve. More discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Item E under the nuisance considerations is the James Lee Norwood Jr. nuisance property review. This is at 5995 Grants Ferry Road. This is District 2 property. At this time, Renee will demonstrate, the public hearing is open, and Renee will demonstrate with the photos. If anyone is here on behalf of James Lee Norwood Jr., now is the time to come forward.
Craig, this was just,
We
I
had
put
this
on
before,
here,
didn't we?
right, and I think Jay had gotten a call on it, even though it's in your district, and I really wanted Craig to explain to y'all the process of how maybe the county might do it. That was kind of what Jay was interested in. So,
Is he still alive?
no, he's deceased.
Okay.
And you know, as far as we know, and from what we heard from the lady who did come,
Right.
he had no known relatives. She said she was
Yeah,
having
she
to
was just
take
taking
of
care
it.
of him.
But
What she
she's
was
in
doing.
Delaware now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do remember this one. Thank you for reminding me. So our
He was in
typical.
a nursing home or something. They put him in a
Seems
home.
like that's right.
Yeah.
I want to say she said something about hospice.
Maybe
but,
so, yeah.
It was an end-of-life situation for sure. So typically what we do in situations like this, if there is sufficient property that is associated with the dilapidated structure, if there's enough property there, its location supports some sort of valuation that makes sense, then oftentimes the board will consider authorizing a process that we have in place where we get a couple of quotes on removal of the dilapidated structure. Most of the time we use these when we got a mobile home situation, or we've got a stick-built house that's already in a state of disrepair. And so oftentimes we will allow the cleanup of the property. What we have been seeing, understanding that each situation is different, what we've been seeing is a pricing in the neighborhood of about $2,500 to $3,500 to do your cleanup. So you're going to want to analyze how much property's here, so that if the county incurs the cleanup costs and then attenuates a lien to the property, and then has the ability to close on that lien, to foreclose on that lien, and secure title and possession of the property, declare that surplus and offer it for sale, are we likely to get our funds back? The money we have invested in the cleanup, can we get that back through ultimately through a sale of the property? That's the analysis we typically go through. So I'm not sure what property is here on this.
2.5 acres.
It's 2.5 acres, and so.
Near Castle.
Yeah, it's right there at the corner of Grants Ferry Road and Bradford, where you're
Okay.
coming in the backside.
Hey,
So it's prime real estate.
yeah,
where it's
my
at.
thought would be you got 2.5 acres, you're gonna get your money back, even if you spend $5,000 getting this trailer on the ground,
Or more.
you will get your money back.
More.
So, to address this situation, this is probably the third or fourth time we've talked about this, in some form or fashion.
Well worth it.
So to get your money back on that, we're not going to find anyone, I don't believe, who could represent James Lee Norwood Jr. or his estate. They're just not going to appear suddenly that we can say, now go clean your property up. So in this situation, I think we're well served to consider getting a couple of quotes on removing this trailer, and then going through the lien process. There are multiple steps that have to be undertaken. The board will have to, it will incur some expense associated with me. I've got to create and file a lien on your behalf. Then we've got to go through the process of foreclosing on that lien so that we can have title and possession vested in the county. Then the county has to declare it surplus. We don't need that property for county purposes. We might, so you might want to hold it. But if the board decides, the majority of the board decides this is not needed for county purposes, declares it surplus, then we can offer it for sale. There's a way to do that.
Firehouse.
We can likely recover the cost associated with the cleanup.
I'll make that motion to do
Okay.
that.
All right.
I think it's a good idea.
Do we don't need to set it then as a nuisance property and go through that matter?
Yes, sir.
We gotta
Yes,
do
sir.
that
Daniel's
first.
motion will be to declare it a
Okay.
nuisance,
All right.
and then to authorize pursuant to 19.5.21, that the county will clean up the property, okay? That, once that cleanup is done, it will pay for the cleanup, and then that will be reduced to a lien that will ultimately be foreclosed upon. All right, that's Daniel's motion.
That's it.
All right, that motion is made by Mr. Cross,
Second.
second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion?
Why can't the, I mean, if the county could come in and clean it up themselves instead of having to get a bid? The road department or Traco or?
Well, because it's private property, Brad, I'm concerned about us putting county equipment onto county property, okay? So it's clearly, it's off the road right of way. If it were closer, if it was impacting road right of way, then I think our guys could do that. But because it's private property and we don't yet have title and possession to it, can't be public property at this point, I don't want us spending taxpayer dollars there. We will ultimately spend taxpayer dollars, but it'll be pursuant to the bid law, because we're gonna get quotes, and it's gonna be taken care of that way.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, for the record, we have closed that public hearing. Okay.
So Craig, the only thing we need to do now is get quotes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, next we have discussion of close text amendments to our zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so we had talked about that at the last meeting, and I just wanted to get clarification on that rural subdivision definition where we said contained 100 feet of frontage along an existing public road. I thought y'all wanted to change that number, and I wanted to be sure.
Which one, say it again, where was it?
It's under 1 where it says add rural subdivision. We were going to define that. 10 lots, 10 acres in size or greater. And then the frontage requirement, 100 feet. I thought y'all questioned that.
That's what we have now, I think, on any subdivision.
Well, in the RE1
Right.
and the RE1A, we
Just 100
do.
feet.
And this is a special kind of deal, just where we can look at large lot subdivisions out in the county, no more than 10, I think.
That's right.
And I may have been the one that questioned it. If you got large lots and you're trying to have a site view of a large lot type atmosphere, and you draw all of them down. I mean, just for instance, if I bought 100 acres, but my 100 acres only had 200 foot of road frontage. If I went in there and cut them up in 20 foot driveways, like spaghetti, running back through there, or if you had 100 acres with 100 foot, I mean, trying to, we want to space them out a little bit more, and I think 100 foot is a little bit narrow at the front. I would go with 150 foot, that the lot has to have 150 foot. And that's still that's still gonna be pie-shaped on a 10-acre lot.
You're not suggesting they're making a whole bunch of driveways off
I'm
off
trying
that
not
whole
to.
foot?
No, the
Yeah.
way that it reads right now is each lot would only have to have 100 foot of frontage.
Right.
I think it needs a little more than that. I think 150 foot would just be the minimum to me. If you think about it, a house is now 80, 85 foot wide. So,
How would that affected the run, Tim, that would affected the ones on, Florence Byram, where they, down around Flinco Farms, and they made the individual lots going down through there. Would this affect that, meaning it would have had to been 150 foot there too?
I would think those lots have 100.
Yeah, those are much larger than 150 feet.
Right, I know, but I mean, would that same have affected him selling those lots? To at least, for sure, to have at least 150 there?
So what's happening here, Jared, is if they want to keep it as A1, they
Just
don't
stay in
want to
agriculture.
rezone it.
All right, yes,
If they want to keep it as A1, then these will be the requirements. These will be the minimum requirements for it to stay that zoning.
Yeah.
The Flinko Farms example, they
Right.
actually went through a rezoning.
But that's not A1.
It's not.
All right.
I think they changed it from
So it was RE1A.
RE1A, and they changed it to RE1. So they can always ask for rezoning. This provision is a workaround of our constant battle about rezoning.
This is kind of what
especially
you
in
and I
rural.
talked about a year ago, you know, with lots 10 acres or more,
Yeah.
not having to go through the same hoops.
So you're really controlling your density two ways. You're controlling it by a minimum frontage requirement and by a minimum acre
Yeah.
requirement.
Okay, and he can't, and he couldn't split that later,
No.
give,
Not without.
Somebody-
It'd have to be
Not without
rezoned. They'd have to
I mean,
rezone
you
it.
couldn't
out of
split that, you own that 10-acre block.
Yeah.
You couldn't give that to your son and build another house on it.
You'd have to get it rezoned, because, you know, you can't have one house on A1,
Yes.
so.
And if you're going to develop more than 10-acre lots,
Then,
you gotta rezone,
You
you
got-
gotta
yeah.
comply with the development ordinance.
Yeah.
So this is a very narrow,
Oh, yeah, you gotta have a minimum of 10 acres. You're gonna have to have 10
you
lots.
can't have more than 10 lots, and each lot has to be at least 10 acres.
Okay, but you could do it if it's 5, if you had 5 lots.
yeah,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You what?
Up to
I got you.
10.
Yeah,
Up
up
to
to
10.
10, I got you. All right.
So we're trying to hit a very narrow set of circumstances that we've been confronted with regularly,
Right.
where we couldn't do anything because there was the rezoning requirement. This will allow
Yep.
rural development for properties that won't look substantially different than anything else around it, that will avoid the necessity of rezoning.
The only thing, yeah,
No more than 10, at least 10 acres apiece.
it just doesn't address, and we still scratching on that one.
road.
Getting on back in here,
Yep.
we got 50
Yeah,
acres
sir.
back here,
Yep.
you can drive, travel
Yeah.
half a mile to get to it.
This
Yeah.
circumstance will not fit where there is an intention to divide property that does not have public road frontage. It
They-
won't work.
They'd have to build a road.
They're gonna have to
Yeah.
address the issue of access. That's gonna continue to be an issue, and it will continue to be, by the way, I predict, because there are a lot of properties all over the county that are configured in such a way that they don't allow for very many lots to have the minimum road frontage.
Right.
You got the pie-shaped property that comes into a narrow point at the road. That property is just gonna have, it's gonna be very difficult to develop that, and it really ought to be that way because there are primary access issues that are created when you try to develop a pie-shaped piece of property
it's-
like that.
Under perfect atmosphere, if somebody had a small amount of frontage and 200 acres, and they all, you know, we'll build the road for private, and we'll maintain it, and, you know, we'll agree to all this. As soon as those homes are built, within the first winter, after first winter, they are just pounding on the county about when are you gonna come out here and fix our road?
It costs us so much
And,
money.
you know, we pay taxes just like those people down there on the blacktop, and we do this and that. And, up front, they agreed they wanted a private road, and anyhow,
Trying to get on the front end.
it don't work.
So do y'all wanna change it to 150?
I mean, I was all right with 100, but I mean, I don't see 150's a problem either, so.
I think, you know, if you got somebody that comes in here and they're at 135, we can look at them with the conditional use or whatever. But I think 150, we want to make it to look large lot type farms.
Well, all of these will be done as a conditional use in the A zone
Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
y'all would have an opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, they come in and need a.
A little
shrink it down,
adjustment
yeah,
because of this
yeah.
or that. But if
Right.
we say 100 foot, they all gonna be 100
Yeah,
foot.
well, and then they'll be asking us when they're.
When the 90, yeah, I can get
Yeah.
85 foot out
So
of
we
it.
gotta,
That's
we
right.
gotta arrive at a conclusion. I like the 150, Steve,
Yep.
gives us a little bit of wiggle room, but it keeps us
Yep.
where we wanna be.
Okay, we changed that then, Renee.
All right, And so I did add one thing, it's in number 2, the second thing, Article 4, General Regulations, Section 404.08. That's just to correct a typo. It should say intersecting street, and it says interesting.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I did was because Jay questioned about the bars and the liquor stores, I just removed it and left it the way it is. Bars are allowed in C3 as a conditional use. They have been since 2004. And liquor stores are allowed as a conditional use in C2 and C3 since 2004. So I just left that alone.
Okay.
So anyway, if I make that change, would y'all be okay to get this approved, set a public hearing to adopt these? And move forward with these?
Yes, ma'am.
Renee, do you want an actual motion to set it for public hearing? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, that would be fine.
You know,
That would be
zoning
good.
amendment it has to be subject to a public hearing. We've got
Right.
we've got
That's
to
right.
provide public notice. So if you guys will humor us, let's get a motion to set a public hearing to consider and potentially adopt these textual amendments.
I'll make that motion.
All right, the motion
Do we need a date?
made by, huh? What?
We were talking about a
We're
date.
going to get you a date here.
Would the 15th of June be okay with y'all?
Okay, set it for the 15th?
Yes.
Set you enough time for that?
It does, just these changes.
All right, motion's been made by Mr. Gaines to set a public hearing for the 15th of June for the proposed changes and amendments to the Rankin County zoning ordinance.
Second.
Second by Ms. Calhoun. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
All right, the next meeting will be held Thursday, July 2nd, 9 o'clock. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Cross, second by Mr. Gaines. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving right along, we move right on into our Board of Supervisors work session / meeting, May 28th. Call it to order at this time. Right out of the gate from public comments, we have Mr. Mark Henry with Mid-South Machinery. You can come forward.
Mr. Vice President, if I may, this is just to help the board, remind all of us that we are entering into a period of public comment. This is an opportunity for constituents and other individuals who may have concerns to bring those to the board. This is not a time for questions and answers. The board is not required to do anything other than to listen to comments that are provided to the board. And so if there are questions that need to be addressed, we will need to accommodate that in some other fashion other than public comment. And so we're going to receive comments at this time, and then the board, in its discretion, can determine how it wants to proceed.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all for a few minutes of your time. That's all I'm going to take up. It's just a few minutes. I don't have any questions for the board. I'm Mark Henry. I'm the owner of Mid-South Machinery. And with me is Gary Boatner. He's a salesman to Rankin County for us. Gary's been calling on Rankin County for as long as we've been in business, 32 years. But I'm a bet he's been calling on Rankin County with another company closer to 40 years, but we won't talk about that very long. Gary doesn't need to be reminded of that. Look, we're here primarily not to ask you questions or be argumentative in any way. We're here primarily to say we're sorry that Rankin County had any kind of problem with my company or the products that we represent. And we want to get back to a point with the county that it has confidence in our company and the products that we represent. Briefly, I do want to touch on a couple of things that were said during the meeting a couple of weeks ago. But before I do, I want to tell just a brief anecdote that's been told a lot of different ways. You probably all heard this in one fashion or another over the years, that no matter how thinly you cook the pancake, at the end of it, you still got two sides. And I'm here to just give my perspective or my side on two of the primary issues that were brought up to you in your actions to award this, not to us, but to the other bidder. And I understand that you can do that. That's not a question. But primarily, the two things that were brought up was that you consistently have a problem with Mid-South Machinery and downtime. And secondly, that Mid-South Machinery doesn't carry any parts on our shelf. We have to order everything. So I just briefly want to touch on those two things. The county had bought parts from us, and I think y'all were provided some invoices during that time. I haven't seen those. I mean, I've got copies of all the invoices, but I don't know what you were provided. They were doing their own work to this asphalt distributor, maintenance, you might call it. It's a 15-year-old machine. We were called in to address an electrical issue, and after several days, we were not able to repair the issue. We had determined that it was probably the computer that needed to be repaired or replaced. The computer was on the shelf. It could have been overnighted from the manufacturer. We could have had it the next day. But we weren't 100% sure that that would work. So we gave the county the opportunity to make a decision. We could bring in, at no cost in money to the county, it would cost the county time, to bring in a model computer. If it worked, then we knew the computer was a problem, and then we could order it and bring it in. So the county made the decision to try that out, to see if it worked. That didn't cost the county any money, but it cost the county time. And that was the primary issue that was brought up, was that my company and the products I represent cost the county time. I just want you to know the county contributed to the prolonged period of time that the truck was out of commission. Sure, the 15-year-old truck, it had problems that need to be addressed, and not all of the parts were on the shelf. Some were, some weren't. But the county played a role in the extended period of time that this repair took place. With regard to parts on the shelf and not having any, that was going to come as a complete surprise to my parts manager, because as of this morning, we had 651 Roscoe line items on our parts shelf. I know that really well because it's about $150,000 that's just sitting there, waiting to be sold. Parts are notoriously difficult to predict what you need and what to have on hand. We have parts on hand. Before I leave, just a real brief history of my company in Rankin County. My company's 32 years old, as I said just a minute ago. In the first year of business, my dad sold Rankin County an asphalt distributor truck, a Roscoe. 17 years later, you bought the truck that you now own in 2005, which you've owned for 15 years. In those 32 years, we also sold about 24 other Roscoe products to the county. And in those 32 years, I've never had this kind of problem to address with the Roscoe brand. I don't know how it got to that point. I can understand, but what I want to do is again say, I'm sorry you had any kind of problem at all. We want to work with the road department. We're willing to work with the road department to regain its confidence. And whatever it takes, Mike, we want to do that with you. And Mike's been good to work with. We hope he'll do that with us in the future. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you coming in.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I come up again? If I may, can I, Jared, with your discretion here, I would like for us to get Greg Thompson. Greg is with Integrated Right-of-Way Services and is helping us with our right-of-way acquisition on a number of road projects.
Yeah.
And so that Greg can get out and actually do what we have hired them to do, which is to go get title for us. I'm going to get him up in front of you guys and let him present to you a couple of, I think one's a landowner counteroffer on a project, the other is a relocation matter that needs the board's attention and decision.
Good morning. Thank y'all for your time. The first thing that we'll address is on Andrew Chapel Road. We have a trailer that needs to be moved. We have to relocate the trailer so that the trailer will not encroach upon the new right-of-way. It's one of the last pieces of the puzzle. The numbers on this sheet that I'm going to give y'all have already approved these amounts. What we're asking for is sort of a special case, I guess, for how these checks might be issued. It's basically this is the deed, by the way.
Thank you.
It's basically a construction project that our office is gonna manage. We've gotta move the lady out, put her in a hotel room, do some dirt work, move the trailer, move her back in. And all these numbers have already been approved. What I'm asking for is authority through Craig and whatever y'all's processes are to issue these checks as we ask for them. We're gonna pay her part of the money we owe her. We're not paying 100% of it, what we owe her for the land. We're gonna hold back until such time that we've got an agreement from the bank to release her portion of the mortgage. So again, all of these numbers have been approved. We're asking for a little bit of an exception for how those checks are issued, some authority through Craig's office. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that y'all have about this process. Sort of a unique situation. Under the law, we're working under the Relocation Act, under the Uniform Act.
You just moving it back some?
Yes, sir. Right now, it's
Okay.
perpendicular to the right-of-way, and it's actually already really close to the road. It's just barely within the setback. We've already gone through the process of getting a variance for her because of lot size. The paperwork's all in order, and what we need to do now is actually start moving dirt. It's a local, we're using Rankin County contractors for the mover. We're using Rankin County contractor for the actual dirt work. He's gonna have to do some dirt work, move the trailer so that it's parallel, build a new deck, put the skirt back in. If the landowner has not at that time demolished or relocated his barn, then we're gonna have to tear the barn down and haul it off. And that's all papered up. It's the actual doing the work. And I need to be able to call somebody and say it's time to write this check. So, and again, all of these numbers on here, y'all have already approved as part of the establishment of just compensation
You're
process.
not being asked to give any more compensation. We're just gonna go ahead and provide some amounts of the compensation now to accommodate the process of completing the move. And I wanna add as well, the landowner in good faith has already given us the title, executed the warranty deed, that will be recorded. So we are being accommodated in good faith. She's already provided us with the right of way, and we haven't moved anything yet. So I would say it would be appropriate for the board simply to authorize that we're gonna go ahead and start issuing the just compensation, the relocation costs in accordance with what Greg told you.
Let me bring one little thing to light that I think is important to note, is that the actual relocation of the trailer, the moving of her stuff, we're operating under a quote. The dirt work is going to be, the dirt work and the moving of the trailer is going to be by Ronnie Williamson Construction, local Rankin County. And he provided us an estimate. So we believe that we have all the detail necessary in the estimate. In fact, we realized after we got the estimate that the replacement of her deck was not part of that estimate, so we came back to you and y'all have approved the replacement of that deck. I've got about 10 years experience in construction and renovation that I'm going to be able to bring to bear on this on y'all's behalf, sort of managing Ronnie. Ronnie's the contractor, but I'll be kind of representing y'all and mediating between the landowner's expectations and Ronnie's performance. There may be some small thing that comes up that Ronnie and or I have missed, and at that time, we would come back to y'all for that. It's possible that there's $500 something or another that I missed, and I'll have to come back. It's not that big of a project, but I don't move trailers all the time.
14 days.
So.
Has anybody got any other questions for Greg with respect to that request?
No, when you said relocate, it sounded more like a readjustment. That's what I was like.
Yeah,
You're not really moving.
we're just moving the trailer. The road's here, the trailer sits right here, and we're
Right.
moving
Yeah,
it this
I
way
see
and
what you're
setting it
saying.
back. We gotta move a
When
power
you said
pole.
you're operating on the relocate, it's like, not really moving there.
That's just a subset of the law that regulates my job. The law is the Uniform Act, and under that law, there's a whole section called relocation, and It's a bunch of details. Basically, we are here to serve to protect the landowner's rights so that you're not legally exposed.
Well, you do have down here, relocate benefits and lodging and dining 14 days.
Yes,
You got a
sir.
price, and over there it says 28 days.
That's a clerical error. Y'all have approved 28 days. We are estimating that 14 days will be sufficient. We're gonna pay them for 14 days.
Right.
If it only takes 7, and they got 7 extra, that's just gravy. If it takes 17, then I'm gonna pay them another 3
Yeah,
days
I got you.
after that 14 is expired. So
Yeah, I
y'all have
understand.
approved 28. We're asking you to pay 14. They get that either way, whether it takes, 7 or 14. If it takes more than 14, then I'll owe them more money, and I already have
Just
authority
by
to
day.
issue that check.
So much per day. I got you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well,
If
Yeah.
we can get, let's add this item to the agenda, it's in a motion to add both of these, I would say let's add both of these. The other is gonna be
A landowner counteroffer.
offer. So if I can get a motion to add both of those here, they're both on Gunner, I'm sorry, they're both on
Andrew
Andrew
Chapel.
Chapel.
okay.
I'll make a
Bring
motion.
the other- Wait, what's the other one?
Yeah, well, let's get them added if it's okay, and
Oh.
then he's gonna discuss the second,
Okay,
the
all
landowner
right,
counteroffer,
so,
but I
all
think we'll
right.
probably approve these
So it's-
independently.
I'll make a motion that we add these 2 items from integrated right-of-way to our agenda for consideration.
Second.
Motion to add these agenda by Ms. Gaines, second Ms. Cross. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay.
Y'all wanna take them together, or would you prefer to separate these two?
I don't
Either
mind.
way, the board's option,
Second.
The parcel number, you can give a parcel number where they'll,
certainly.
parcel number, AC-48, and, that'd be the tax parcel, K10-108-10. The other one is parcel number 2018-195, and that's Andrew Chapel, Road Reconstruction Projects.
So we're gonna, have a
Now
motion
we got
approved?
that motion, it's,
We got them added.
we got them added.
Okay, you
on
can
the-
go ahead with the other one.
We'd ask for on the trailer move, a motion to grant whomever
Authority to
authority to
issue
issue checks.
checks.
Once our office has approved satisfactory
All right.
completion of each of the pieces of the work.
That one that we're talking about, let me see what I do.
That's AC 48.
Okay, AC, I make a motion that we give authority to Laura's office to make the payments as you present them to her, that's within what we've already approved, and that goes along with this paperwork that you've given us concerning the Annie L. Collier relocation.
Yes, sir.
And if it exceeds what we're looking at, you'll bring that back to us.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do that one.
All right.
I make that motion.
Okay, motion to approve, that one. The long-winded one, yeah. Motion to approve, it was what, parcel AC 48?
That's right.
Yeah, AC 48 tax parcel. All right. Motion by Ms. Gaines,
Second.
second from Ms. Cross. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
And
that
next,
one's approved.
next,
Go to the next one.
I think you've already added this one to the agenda.
We
Next,
have.
we have, this represents the final landowner for Andrew Chapel Road.
Hold it up.
Mr. Collier is the grandson of the lady who lives in the trailer we're moving. He has been a little bit difficult to get in touch with because he's an active duty service member. And I'll let you read, you'll want to read his email to me late last night briefly. That's the second page at the top, is his argument asking for a landowner counteroffer adjustment of $470. And it would be at the board's discretion. The established just compensation is $330. He's asking for an additional $470 for a total of $800. So it's at the board's discretion. We owe him $330. If y'all want to make an adjustment, you can. If not, then this matter would move.
I
to-
think we should spend a couple of thousand, maybe 4,000 in fighting him. And this is our last one, and postpone this work for another year. So in that, really, I make a motion that we accept his counter offer which is a $470 adjustment.
Administrative adjustment of $470 for the legal motion.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mr. Gaines to accept the counter offer for parcel number 2018-195 on Andrew Chapel reconstruction project.
While I've got you here, could I have just a moment to give you a quick, oh, sorry.
Do what now?
You gotta
Hey,
vote.
wait,
We
I
gotta
had
vote.
a motion.
Second.
Second.
Yep.
A motion, Mr. Gaines, second, Mr. Cross. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Mr. Morrison, would you like a quick update on where IRO is with the county projects?
Sure.
Andrew Chapel Road, as of probably next week, this will be complete. We'll have the title on everything except for partial releases with banks and a few pieces of property that have ongoing litigation through eminent domain. Gunner Road is completely done except for a few banks that we're still working with. The banks have been a lot harder to work with since they've been so busy with foreclosures and all the stuff through COVID. So Andrew Chapel Road's almost completely done. Gunner is done. Andrew Jackson is done. So,
Thank you, Greg. I want to commend you on the work that you've done on Andrew Chapel. We had to take possession of people's properties and things like that to make this work for the best. I mean, that's for the betterment of everybody. I got a phone call this week from a lady that just wanted to tell me how much she enjoyed working with y'all, and that y'all were very intelligent, and also that that y'all just showed her a personality that you cared. And so thank you for the work y'all have done on that road.
thank you for the opportunity. I enjoy my job.
Yes.
Best one I've ever had.
Good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, before you jump into that, Craig, I just want to say one thing. I should have said it earlier, but anyway, we had a little, a pretty good little storm came through yesterday on the Mayan district, the county. Straight line wind, it just ripped a whole strip through there. A lot of power lines, just trees blocking roads. Fortunately, not any real damage, real bad. But I just want to say, I was out there, and the sheriff's department was in the places they need to be to try to, because you couldn't, on those rural roads, you don't know which way to go to get home, and it's just crazy, and they're helping to direct them. The power company had to wait with them a lot because they had a lot of power lines down, and the road crew, Mike and his crew were at every location ready to go, and anyway, everybody seemed to be real understood and was real complimentary of everything that's going on. But I just want to throw that out there right now. Anyway, like I say, fortunately it happened in a daylight time of the day, and when it went through, it was gone. So we weren't in a storm trying to deal with this. So could have been worse.
Ed, did y'all respond?
Yep.
Yes, sir, we had some trees through some roofs and some houses.
Y'all were more in the Cleary area, and I didn't realize that actually until on Facebook. And then my daughter lives out there, and she started sending me pictures. But I didn't go up through Cleary, I was on the road.
Jim Palmer's house, the
Huh?
fire chief of Cleary.
Yeah, right.
Threw a tree through the roof.
Yeah, I sent him a message this morning, could I come, he needed help lifting it out, and he said they'd gotten it. But he told me, Brett was there and everything, he called me. Yeah, I'm sorry if I've left you all out.
Don't worry about that. The sheriff's department's dispatcher sent an email out to me last night, and I think it was close to 40 different locations that they had charted on there, where they either had roads blocked, trees down, propane tanks leaking,
Yeah,
one thing after
right.
another.
Did y'all get the fire truck hauled in?
The fire truck is now sitting at Hogs towing lot, because I did not want to take it back to Tri-State, because we paid them twice to fix it. They've clearly established they cannot fix it, and if we're gonna pay somebody not to fix it, then let's pay somebody else not to fix it. I do have another vendor that's looking at it right now as we speak, to give us some type of quote, so.
All right. Without further ado, we'll move through my section here of the work session agenda. Under my section, the first item is a discussion of illegal dumping, a couple of incidents at the White Road County Barn location. Our Mike Harrison is aware of this situation. I wanted to
allow the board an opportunity to hear some of the facts and circumstances. So the big picture is this: we've had some incidents down at White Road maintenance satellite location over time, and the board recently authorized the placement of some security cameras so that we get a better handle on that situation. Those are doing their job. The first incident to discuss with you is some illegal dumping activity. The incident that is subject to our discussion today is one where the entry to the facility was locked. The gate was closed and it was locked. And the individual decided to take it upon himself to simply dump what he was intending to bring into the facility outside the facility in the entry. And so the City of Florence, of course, this location is inside the City of Florence. City of Florence dispatched investigator, and they reviewed the footage and were able to track the individual and identify him very quickly. Mike, how long did it take? An hour?
No.
Not even an hour.
Quick.
Yeah.
I got a phone call.
Right.
And it wasn't long.
And so the individual came clean immediately, offered do whatever he needed to do, but nonetheless, the report, the City of Florence, through its police department, completed an investigative report. They have provided that to me on behalf of the county, and we wanted to get in front of you guys and talk about this before we took any action. I don't want to get ahead of you guys or assume anything.
But let's add to it. This is his second time.
Yes, sir. This is a frequent flyer. I don't know that we have the same level of evidence on
No,
incident
I'm
number
saying
one. Yes, sir.
He admitted the second.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he admitted it.
He was not represented by counsel during his discussion with the investigator, Steve. I don't know that he was Mirandized, but this is not a felony anyway. But nonetheless, the situation is this: he copped to two different incidents, and what we need some direction on from the board is how do we want to handle this situation. So we have a couple of options. It's our property that was impacted. The illegal dumping took place on county property, which makes it subject to the jurisdiction of our court system, the county court system, through Justice Court. If the board chose to go in that direction, we can move everything through Justice Court and have this incident dealt with there. But it also occurred inside the city limits of the City of Florence, and it was through their police department investigation that the allegation is documented. Okay, and so the other option that we have is to ask the City of Florence to take responsibility for prosecuting this illegal dumping incident. And so we really just need some direction from the board as to which direction you would prefer to go.
Well, what would you suggest?
You know, my initial
I don't know
thought.
what's better.
You know, my initial thought was that if we keep this as a Rankin County Justice Court matter, we know the Justice Court personnel, we know the prosecutor, we know the situation, we kind of know timelines and time frames. There was some level of comfort there that we could work with the county prosecutor to address how it is that we want to see this rectified. I think, Jared, the concern that I have is that we want the punishment to be commensurate with the incident, right? And really what we want, as far as the county is concerned, we want folks to understand that we're just simply not going to roll over and play dead when our property is impacted this way. We need to send a clear message to the community that, you know, we're here to serve you, but we need commensurate behavior coming back our way. Don't abuse the privilege that you have to be able to utilize the county facilities like this. And you're impacting other people. That's the...
The problem I have, and I agree with you, because the point I see is there's one particular place, but it's a dead-end deal. It's closed, and this same type stuff gets hauled there and dumped. So I don't know if it could have been the same individual. I don't know, but I'm trying to let people see, you know, the dump's there if you wanna put it there, but wait till the gate's open.
That's right.
But if the gate's not open, want to deter them from going down to the next place and dumping it, that's what happens. So they might want to recognize the fact that we may have cameras in numerous locations.
Yes.
Where they continue to try to dump. And this would be a good point to let them send a message that you may be being watched.
Yes. So we're gonna do what we need to do to protect the county's property, the taxpayers' investment that's in the county facilities that we have. It costs money for us to provide that facility, to man that facility, to keep that facility cleaned. There's a very real cost associated with that. We don't need help spending money, taxpayer money, to clean up somebody else's mess that nobody believes was the right thing to do. Nobody
Greg,
misunderstands
this is
that.
not the first time, not
Right.
this individual, I don't know, it's the first time that this has happened.
Yes.
A lot of times you go by there and they just dumped it at the gate. Mike tell you that clean it out to get in to open the gates. So this will send a good sign.
That's right. I'm really ambivalent about which of the jurisdictions takes responsibility for it. It really doesn't matter to me. I have good relationships with the prosecutor in Florence. We know that system as well. It would probably be simpler, to be quite honest with you, just to ask Florence to take it and run with it, and then allow me on your behalf to communicate with the prosecutor as we arrive at some sort of resolution to this particular incident. It's a misdemeanor. There's probably going to be a fine involved. More than likely, the court will at least consider whether or not to require some sort of community service, which I think would probably be a good thing.
We got 3 crews every
Yes,
day
sir.
leave.
Absolutely. And so what I would suggest is let's just flip this to Florence. They started it. They have run with the investigation. It's their paperwork. They're familiar with it. Let's flip it to them. But I'm telling you in advance that I'm going to work with the prosecutor to arrive at an appropriate resolution to this on your behalf. Okay?
Well, I'm fine with that. If that's your suggestion,
Yep.
I'm fine. I will say Florence, and I'll compliment them as soon as the officer saw it. He called me. I called Mike, and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know I picked it up on the camera."
Right.
You know, so he moved right on. He want me to move forward on it.
Yes,
Yeah. So I mean, in that, I guess on the other side, it wouldn't want to look like we didn't have confidence in them, so they have
I
done
agree.
a great job.
I agree.
And stayed right on it. And
I have absolutely no complaints about the way the investigation was handled. Speedy.
I'm good with Florence, but I would like for you to monitor it really close, because we've got a lot of areas that are not in the city limits and may not be the same, and we'd have to handle it ourselves. And I'd like to be consistent
Right.
across the county in the future with this type activity.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
a little inconvenience of a little community service will probably go further than paying a fine.
Yes, sir.
And
I'll try to make.
along with the fine.
I will relay that information. The second incident that occurred is it's theft of county resources is what it is. We have an individual in that community who has helped themselves to some of our 610, and that again has been captured. So the evidence is strong and powerful, and an investigation has ensued. Or is in process to go forward, and we would like to again pursue that. I wanted you guys to be aware that has happened, and that we expect there to be an investigative report just like the other incident, and that I would anticipate that the City of Florence would be willing to move forward again, same situation with the second incident as well. The trash incident occurred first, and then this other issue came to light after.
Same
And
day.
so- Yep.
How much limestone did they steal?
I'm gonna have to defer.
Steve, it was somewhere, anywhere, roughly what we could get.
I mean, I had a trailer or a truck
No.
or,
No, just getting it with his tractor in the front bucket, coming down there and getting it.
Inside the barn, inside the gate? How'd they get in the gate?
it was
The
probably,
gate's
Oh,
open.
it's open.
Yeah, this gate's open where the same where the dumpsters are.
Oh, okay.
8 to 10 loads is what we're at.
8 to 10 loads, or not, you're
Front
talking
end
about 8
loader,
to 10
bucket
front
full?
loaders,
Yeah.
not loads.
Front end
loader,
loader, yes, sir.
Okay. That would be about a small dump truck.
8 yards.
Yeah.
It's a good, yeah. It's a big-
So I quizzed Mike a little bit about that. We think that the value
That
of
would be approaching a felony.
it's close. But don't forget, and I'm going, the sheriff's, top of the sheriff's head may pop off here. Y'all remember HB 585 from a few years back?
Yeah.
I believe, Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they moved it to 1,000, didn't they?
Yes.
So we're gonna be under the felony level on that, which, again, it allows it to stay in a controlled environment for our purposes. It'll stay in city court, and so it'll be subject to the city prosecutor. Same thing on the trash. I would anticipate in both situations, we'll be able to have a solid seat at the table to help them understand really what the county's interest is. And as I appreciate it, I'm not trying to get ahead of y'all, but as I appreciate it, what I'm sensing is we want to really just send a strong message as far and as wide as we can. We're just not going to sit by, idly by, and allow our resources to be abused. We're just not going to do it. We're going to take action, and we're not going to give anybody, no matter who they are, a pass.
Would there be, with all that being said, would there be a consideration, I think Mike, we've had some comment, discussion about it, of maybe putting, I think, for more than just this, but for just, a camera at this particular facility, not just for, the benefit just for this, but also we're having problems at the same one where these, contractors come in there and dump a whole trailer load of stuff that should be taken to Mount Helm or to over toward Wendell, and if we could, had some way to identify them, and they're pretty clever when they slip in. They know when to come in, and they just have a dump trailer and they dump it right there. So, in our guys' defense, if they try to talk to them, they go, "Hey, I just tore that." They can't really get on to them. They say, "Hey, I tore that out at my house." Well, it's pretty obvious what it is. In that, Mike's talked about possibly wanting to look at putting a camera there to help. We had some little bit of vandalism. We've had some kids coming next door, getting stuff and taking it like kids do and building a fort. The only thing they built it in a dude's backyard. But I mean, that's just being kids. But I mean, something that we would have a little foot on to go to the parents and say, we know this is them,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They really weren't hurting anything, but still, it's what it is.
Two interesting issues there that come to mind. The fact that the fellow decided to just dump, offload right there outside the facility, that makes that an illegal dumping action. Nobody is confused about that.
Right.
When they are able to make their way into the facility and we've provided a place for them, a receptacle, Jared, it becomes not a trespass issue. It's probably not an illegal dumping issue at that point. It's probably simply a violation of our policy, which is we don't take everything. And so there are some things that you would otherwise dump somewhere like this that we are telling you in advance, that's got to go to Mount Helm.
I know, and
So-
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, I think if they knew it was there, they would
Yes.
let us out to do it.
Deterrent.
At one point, we had a guy there, and he, unfortunately, he's passed away and gone, but he was dumping 200 or 300 tires at
Right.
one time. He'd wait till they're gone, and he'd take the tire, he'd own the tire place, and so I'm sure you're paying him to dispose of your tire, only he just sent it down there for us to dispose of. You drive by there one morning, weren't there, come back, that's where I go home every day, and at 12 o'clock, hey, there'd be 300 tires dumped out there. And you know what? The trailer that parked behind this place would be empty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's more of a deterrent issue,
Yeah,
and
right.
I agree with you that it would be better than not having anything.
Can we just have a sign that restricts commercial dumping?
We do.
It's already
Well,
there.
It's
I got all
kind of,
that in place, Steve, and, they just don't pay no attention. I think the cameras, once I kinda get on a pattern of what, right now I've just got some snapshot stuff, so it's hard to pattern stuff, but these people know when we're leaving. If I can get some patterns going on, then I can have a conversation with them at that
Hey,
point. Or I can
they'll
sit-
stop and pull
I
a
can
magnet
sit
off
there-
the door
Somebody
when
will
it's
sit
done.
there waiting on it when they come
Yeah.
in. Because they're doing it, they know what time, they know our routine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're dodging our routine is what they're doing. I've checked into this, it's not a very expensive system, it'll be more like your home security system, cellular based, so we'll kinda know what's going on. We'll that way I can get in touch with Brian or somebody, you know, if something's going on down there. It just seems to have gotten worse this year.
Well, and Florence would be right there, but yeah, I think if nothing else is a deterrent to, I know if you think you own a camera,
I
you're
mean,
gonna
we
be less
put
out.
locks on our doors, you know, keep them out of the shop, and some people just don't care about it, they rip it off and go in. We've had people just use the bathroom and our floor in the office in there, you know, just
You know, make sure you warn all the employees that you got cameras.
I understand.
Those were the two incidents. I don't really need any action. We will take the board's suggestion, and we'll work with the city of Florence then to pursue both of those incidents, okay? And we'll give you guys a report back as we have information to give you. Item B is a discussion of staffing and budget requests has been made by the district attorney. I'm going to ask Ms. Laura to help me here. Got a phone call from the district attorney, and he is looking, looking forward to a early July time frame to restart the grand jury process, which has been on hold since the virus situation developed. And so they have a significant backlog of felony cases that are going to need to be presented to the grand jury, and that's anticipated to restart in July. He is starting to reset now the grand jury proceedings. And I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details. None of us in here are prosecutors or criminal defense attorneys. Mike, you may be. You do that on the side, don't you? So, okay, Tuesday, Thursday. So the way that works, big picture, the way that works is there is a clock that starts ticking when the grand jury is impaneled, and that clock enumerates the amount of time that the county has to actually bring a criminal proceeding to conclusion. And so when the grand jury proceeding starts, that clock starts running, and so it was obvious that Bubba needed to be careful about when we start grand jury proceedings in light of the fact that we didn't know when the court system was going to be back open and available to conduct the actual trials. So if that makes sense, he's having to be very careful about when to restart so that we don't get in a situation where we run out of time, okay? And so what he's done is he's put off the grand jury proceedings. That has caused the backlog of cases. And so he doesn't have the staff in Rankin County to accommodate the case backlog. And he's anticipating that he hasn't had the staff, by the way, he hasn't had the staff to adequately cover the cases that he has. And so this is just exacerbating the situation. Why has he not had the staff that he feels like he does need in Rankin County? His predecessor was fortunate in that he had, I believe, 4 part-time retired, at least 3, but I think 4 part-time retired ADAs who were part-time and half rate. Yep. And the budget would allow for what was full staffing for Rankin County. That gave Michael a total of 9 assistant district attorneys for Rankin County, which accommodates the caseload in Rankin County well, according to what I'm being told. Madison County, by comparison, has 6 ADAs. Less population, less municipalities, lower caseload, and so he's able to cover Madison County with 6. He needs 9 in Rankin County to get everything covered, and he doesn't have access to retired half-time ADAs anymore because now they're officially retired. They left when Michael left, and so he doesn't have access to that anymore, and he needs full-time ADAs to complete his complement. He has 7 on his staff now. We, you, me, Rankin County taxpayers, fully support 2 of those positions. The state of Mississippi, through the AOC, provides 3, and the district attorney, through funding resources that are made available through grant funding and other funding sources, provides 2. So it's a 2-2-3. In Madison County, the state provides him 3 ADAs there, just like they provide 3 for us. The Board of Supervisors provides 3.
in Madison County. So they are one more ADA in Madison County under their board complement than here in Rankin County, which we provide two. So what Bubba is asking for is for the board to consider going in with his office and providing 50% of the cost of two ADAs.